In 1901, the Pacific Electric Railway was created by railroad magnate Henry Huntington, and by the 1920s was the largest electric interurban line and sprawled the expanse of Southern California. Most of the Southern Territory was agricultural, with considerable growth towards the end of the years of the Pacific Electric Service stopping in 1950. Where there was a trolley depot, there was prosperity. The Stanton Depot was no different in that respect. However, it was a small agricultural town that already had a stop for freight and passenger service for the well-established Southern Pacific Line. The unassuming depot was built here in between the advent of Henry Huntington's interurban line and the laying of the tracks in 1904, with passenger service and freight starting November 6, 1905. This was the catalyst for the burgeoning city of Stanton, California. Stanton's built environment, as we know it today, we can attribute to the steadfast depot stop on the Pacific Electric Railway. According to the 1911 Journal of Electricity, Power, and Gas, in all towns the depots are similar to those required in good steam railroad practice. There are many shelter stations in almost as many varieties of architecture. They vary greatly in size and cost, and many of them are built by citizens or real estate companies, oftentimes before the anticipated population would justify the railroad company cost of the station. In many cases, the community has furnished lumber and all materials, while the railroad had supplied labor or construction. However, by 1911, Pacific Electric holds blueprints for standardization of depots. Stanton is an early depot that was typical of a hopeful town, built from local materials and in the interest of real estate endeavors. Heavy marketing efforts by the Pacific Electric promoted the beauty and fertility of the California landscape, with land parcels at attractive prices and free scenic tours to view them. The Southern District Santa Ana line of the Pacific Electric Railway started from Los Angeles area with their first stop in Watts and proceeded southeast 33.61 miles to the Santa Ana PE station, serving Linwood, Bellflower, Artesia, Cypress, Stanton, and Garden Grove, with one last stop available at the Southern Pacific Santa Ana station at mile marker 34. At 24.69 miles from Los Angeles, Stanton was about two-thirds of the trip from LA and was heavily promoted as a promising real estate investment, a place where there is room at the bottom. By 1912, Stanton was a business center with 3,500 people and 20,000 acres of Orange County's best land. It boasted a tributary and 44 trains daily on the Pacific Electric, with opportunities today in Southern California: grocery, hardware, a meat market, plumbing, livery stable, a machine shop and garage, with advanced sale lots under liberal building discounts. Welcome to Stanton. Population just over 39,000 and incorporated in 1911. But let's go back in time a little bit. Before it was Stanton, it was Benedict. And Benedict's origins can be traced back to one of the largest land grants in California. It wasn't until the arrival of the Pacific Electric Railway and Henry Huntington with signed land agreements for Benedict in 1905. There were talks as early as 1902 that garnered excitement for the community, as they were in expectation of a railway just for them. Commuter opportunities and export of agriculture were on the list. This California small farming town was already slated for designation as a sewage dump by larger neighboring community Anaheim. The area already had a sugar beet dump and was large enough to accommodate the unfavorable proposal. Stanton is a unique place where two major transportation arteries intersect. The Southern Pacific Line was famous for popular passenger service and freight capabilities. However, it wasn't until the Pacific Electric Line allowed for transportation in between urban cities did we see a growth in smaller towns. The combination of real estate sales, population increase, and flow of freight that was mostly directed towards Los Angeles was supported by the Stanton Depot. Between the months that the Pacific Electric had land agreements with Benedict and the time that passenger service started, the station behind us was built. Let's take a walk around the original environment the Stanton Depot used to service Benedict and Stanton. I can't believe they didn't do anything with this land. But there's the Southern Pacific where it intersects with the Pacific Electric right-of-way. So we're going to go for a walk on the right-of-way to see if we can see any track remnants. So Knott's Berry Farm bought the old Pacific Electric freight and passenger depot, and they brought it to Ghost Town here at the park. And today we were lucky enough to go check that out. Adaptive reuse is such a wonderful thing to do with historic preservation if it fits the context of the situation. And this particular depot fits in with Ghost Town here. It's used as a train depot. Obviously, it's had some add-ons. The Register, the local newspaper, in 1911 explained a day of celebration of Anaheim's defeat to establish a sewage farm. So the whole community had a party. They decorated the station with pennants that said Stanton, and they celebrated their new town name. So it was the city of Stanton. They had their brand new name, and they celebrated with 3 speeches, a barbecue, fireworks, and a community gathering. So there's a little bit of a comparison. You can see how much that it has been built on since it's been here at Knott's. Let's take a closer look at the defining features of this building. It exemplifies American vernacular architecture with its balloon frame construction, a method that gained popularity from the late 1800s through the early 20th century. This style, built primarily with lumber, allowed for quick and economical construction. Note the moderately pitched roof. Originally, the building had a side-gabled roof, but modifications, including the addition of a door on this side, have transformed it into a front gable design. The exterior also features shingled siding. You can see with the exposed beams, they're decorative, so that gives it a craftsman style flair. And that would have been appropriate in 1905 when it was built. These exposed beams in the roof construction and the supporting unelaborated square columns. You can see here we have clapboard siding. And this is a unique way that it's cut. It's called a chamfered cut V, because of the way it kind of angles into a V shape in between in the channels. So the interesting thing about the size of this building is it's not standard to Pacific Electric. The Stanton Depot was made before the standardizations in 1911. The length of the original part that they had built is only 31 1/4 long. So it's not very big for what you get, but it's bigger than some of the other stations in the area. Hanson Station was just one stop before Stanton, coming from LA. Its design was more similar to a standard waiting station type E5 from the Pacific Electric Railway Company. You can see here it's really no bigger than a bus stop. If you look at Hanson Station, which was just the next one north, you would find that it was a waiting area that probably wasn't much bigger than just the porch here. but because Stanton was able to have a freight platform and passenger service, that allowed for commuter service and also freight to be exported to LA for the markets. One of the interesting features that were similar to the standardized stations was when this was originally built, it was built on piers, and that was because California has a lot of flooding. And so that was a measure for flood control and to make sure that the foundation stayed level. But I noticed in the blueprints for the other stations that the piers were the same.
This part here is all added on. This is not original. This line queue is added on. But they tried to maintain the look of the original window, which is on the other side.
There's a very unique feature about this building, and I'm going to show you on one side.
Telling me. Okay, so on this side, there's Mad Dog. How are you?
Good, how you doing?
Are you behaving?
I do. How you been?
The window is unique in that it is situated at the height of the doors of a Pacific Electric trolley or freight car, as you can see in this historical photo and also in recent pictures at ground level. I was able to talk my way inside of the building, and while most of the interior looks redone, the window itself looks original. Notice the hinges at the top, which would allow for it to open inward and upward, possibly to receive freight or baggage. By 1906, the station was so popular that Orange County Chamber of Commerce was already asking for a double track to LA. In 1906, we see in the newspaper people complaining that they didn't want to wait every time a car was late. So in 1907, we see news of a double track being laid. If the Pacific Electric had skipped building in Stanton, I believe the city wouldn't have thrived. Southern Pacific did have the Benedict Station, but the amount of agriculture that went out and export is what really made the community thrive. By 1913, Santa Ana newspapers were saying Stanton keeps up with March of Progress, new residences and big warehouses. And that's exciting for a small city. They really put their name on the map. And if the Pacific Electric owned the land and they were responsible for selling land parcels, which gave them the responsibility for the growth of the community. A lot of export came from Stanton with agriculture, and you're going to be amazed at how many diverse products that they brought to LA and beyond. So there was wealth in cabbage, celery, citrus, sugar beets, and most surprisingly, Mexican and California chilies that were grown almost exclusively here. The Pacific Electric was responsible for selling land parcels all throughout Stanton. The Stanton station was built by the Pacific Electric for this purpose. Their entire purpose wasn't necessarily to transport people, but it was to sell land. Their entire purpose was to create the built environment. The more land they sold, the more agriculture they could output, and the line became attractive for LA residents as well, who could then purchase land in Stanton and surrounding areas and then commute into the city. The interesting thing about Stanton is that they already had a depot in Benedict. They had one with the Southern Pacific Railway, but the community boom wasn't there. It wasn't until they provided passenger service from LA to Stanton did we really see the growth in the community. They had the ability to export agriculture, but they needed the people to come and do it. They needed the people to thrive there and grow. So the depot remained in place until 1951. It was about that time that the city decided to build Highway 39 right through the city, and that's Beach Boulevard. That's a huge part of our community here. But Knott's Berry Farm, and Walter Knott, who owned Knott's Berry Farm at the time, was able to relocate the depot to his theme park. The Stanton Depot has lived on for 119 years, and I hope that we get to keep it for many years to come. It lives on here at Knott's Berry Farm, and we're really lucky that we got to come see it today. Today I was here with my mentor from the Southern California Railway Museum, and we got to share a little bit of history about the Stanton Depot and old photographs with some of the employees here. It was really nice to foster that sense of community and sense of history here, and I really hope that this project can be part of a bigger picture to kind of right some of the wrong information that's out there and also bring our community together a little bit more.
So this is all created. This is all added on. This is not original. So as you come in, you can see that this is all added on. This is the original wall of the station.
Is this glass?
This whole wall is added on. I don't know if the actual paneling or siding is original. The ticket booth, I don't know. I don't have pictures of the original. But
Are these ticket windows? How it was?
I don't know. There's no way I could know unless somebody was here.
Because the thing I'm trying to figure out is
21. Now, isn't that amazing?
What is it?
It's a cuckoo clock. It's acting cuckoo right now because it's 22:21. And I keep trying to go with that. Wait, no, it just went back to.